The first thing I saw was a tactical vest. The second was Karen, holding a bullhorn like she was storming Normandy, all to arrest my lawn gnome. And me? I was sitting in a lawn chair, shirtless, sipping iced tea and wondering if I'd accidentally joined a cult. Is this real life? My gnome rotated slowly, middle fingers raised, LED halo glowing. Cue the sirens. Cue the drone. Cue the HOA SWAT team. Boom. One guy just tripped over a sprinkler and screamed, "Target visual acquired." 2 weeks ago, I was just a guy with a weird statue and a peaceful lawn. Then Karen decided Gregory was a threat to national security. Now I'm at war with laminated rules, fake citations, and a suburban dictator with too much free time. Before I tell you how my lawn gnome got declared a hostile visual element, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me your worst HOA horror story. I might just feature yours next. Also, let me know what you would name an 8-foot gnome with LED eyes and beef with the suburbs. So picture this. I come home one afternoon, iced tea in hand, sun on my face, just vibing after a long shift. When I see it, my lawn gnome. Missing. Not knocked over. Not hidden behind a bush. Gone. Like he packed up his little ceramic suitcase and skipped town. Now I know what you're thinking, it's just a lawn gnome, dude. Chill. But this wasn't just any lawn gnome. This was Gregory. Hand-painted, smug-faced, flipping the bird with both hands, and holding a beer stein the size of his head. A wedding gift from my brother, which tells you a lot about both my family and my aesthetic. So I do what any self-respecting man with a gnome-related emergency would do. I march out to my front yard and start yelling. Gregory? My neighbor across the street, Janice, queen of yoga pants and passive-aggressive Facebook posts, peeks over her garden hedge like a meerkat in lip gloss. Is something wrong? She asks, clutching her rose. Yes, Janice, I shout back. A crime has been committed. Someone kidnapped my gnome. She doesn't even flinch. Maybe he violated HOA rules. Cue the record scratch in my brain. Roulette? I repeat. Janice shrugs. There's a new list of approved decorations. Karen dropped it off this morning.
No, offensivi miri.
And that, my friend, is when the world shifted. The sky got darker. The birds stopped singing. Somewhere, a dog howled mournfully, because I knew who took Gregory, Karen, our HOA president, the suburban tyrant, the bleach-blonde dictator in yoga flats who once fined me for having an unapproved flag on my porch. It was a garden flag that said, "Go away." She said it promoted antisocial behavior. I storm inside and check my mailbox, and lo and behold, there it is, a typed letter on official HOA letterhead. In Comic Sans, because of course. Dear resident, during today's compliance inspection, it was noted that your front lawn ornament displayed hostile gestures and inappropriate content in violation of Community Standards 6.3b. The item has been temporarily removed pending review. Sincerely, Karen Blecker, HOA president. She signed it with a smiley face. Now I'm not a violent man. I meditate. I journal. I once tried goat yoga, but in that moment I saw red. Karen didn't just remove a gnome. She removed freedom. She took Gregory like he was a criminal, like he didn't belong in the peaceful, dandelion-speckled front yard where he reigned supreme. So I did the only thing I could. I printed a missing gnome poster, front and center. A photo of Gregory, in all his rude ceramic glory. I plastered it all over the neighborhood. Stop signs, trees, the community bulletin board, even on Karen's mailbox, in permanent ink. By the next morning, my phone was blowing up. I had neighbors texting me crying laughing emojis. Someone Venmo'd me $10 with the note, "Free Gregory." Another guy, Kevin, 2 streets down, offered to build a gnome liberation shrine on his lawn in protest. It was beautiful. It was chaotic. It was exactly the kind of petty war I was born for. Karen, however, did not share our enthusiasm. That afternoon, she knocked on my door. Not rang. Knocked. Like a cop, clipboard in hand. Power-walking fury radiating off her like a microwaved fish stick. "Mr. Collins," she said, I need you to take down the flyers. I blinked. Have you found my gnome? She glared. That ornament was highly inappropriate. It has no place in a family community. I leaned against the doorframe. It was on my property. We have shared visibility standards, she said, pulling out the HOA handbook like it was the Constitution. You agreed to them when you moved in. I smiled. Actually, I moved in before the HOA was even established. So technically, you agreed to my standards. She sputtered like a deflating balloon. Then I dropped the bomb. Oh, and Karen? I'm installing a new lawn ornament today. She narrowed her eyes. If it violates HOA rules, you'll want to see it, I said sweetly. It's a tribute to Gregory. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, like a stunned goldfish. I closed the door in her face. And that's when the real fun began. So remember how I said I was going to install a new lawn ornament? Yeah. That was an understatement. I didn't just replace Gregory, I resurrected him. Bigger, ruder, and now with LED lighting. I present to you Gregory the Divine, 8 feet tall, carved from pressure-treated lumber and painted with weatherproof enamel. He still held his iconic double bird salute, but now he wore a flowing robe, actually an old curtain from Goodwill, a glowing halo made from a bicycle rim and solar fairy lights, and a plaque that read, "Sparkles in memory of the fallen Gregory, patron saint of mind-your-own-business sparkles." Neighbors slowed their cars to look. One guy literally pulled over, got out, and gave Gregory a salute. Another snapped a photo and uploaded it to the local community app with the caption, "HOA Meet Your Match." Karen saw it before lunch. I was in my garage fine-tuning Gregory's foot pedestal when I heard the screech of tires and the unmistakable battle cry of freshly brewed rage. What is that? I turned. There she stood, Karen, HOA president and supreme wielder of the clipboard of doom, vibrating with rage like a chihuahua about to explode. "Oh, hey, Karen," I said, wiping sawdust off my hands. "Did you come to pay your respects?" She blinked. "Is that a shrine?" I nodded. "Yep, to Gregory. May his middle fingers point forever toward HOA tyranny." Karen's face did a weird thing, like she wanted to scream but was also trying to keep her Botox from cracking. "This violates multiple sections of the HOA handbook," she hissed. "You can't have a religious display in your yard without board approval." "Actually," I said, tapping a printout on my clipboard, "because two can play that game. Section 4.2 says, seasonal or spiritual lawn displays are permitted so long as they're non-permanent and respectful. Gregory is seasonal, spiritually iconic, and frankly very respectful to the tenets of free expression." She made a strangled noise. "He's flipping people off. He's flipping off oppression, Karen, and he's doing it with class." And then, this is the part that still brings a tear to my eye, Gregory lit up. The solar lights kicked in at full brightness. His halo glowed like divine judgment. A random gust of wind made his robe flutter just so. I swear to God, it looked like a scene from a Renaissance painting if Michelangelo had a beef with an HOA. Karen backed up like he was about to smite her. "You'll regret this," she muttered, retreating like a villain who just realized the hero has plot armor. 2 hours later, I got the first violation notice in the mail. Hand-delivered. Same Comic Sans. Unauthorized religious display. Remove immediately. Followed by a fine of $350 and a line that read, "Continued noncompliance may result in legal action or suspension of lawn privileges." Lawn privileges. I nearly passed out from laughing. What were they going to do, revoke my right to mow? But I wasn't done yet. I posted the letter online, along with a photo of Gregory basking in his LED glory, and it exploded. Overnight, Gregory the Divine was trending on TikTok. A local artist offered to sketch a portrait. Someone started a change.org petition titled, "Let Gregory Stay." And then the media got involved. Okay, not big media, but a local podcaster who covers suburban dramas and petty crimes messaged me asking for an interview. And you bet your HOA fearing, but I said yes. By the end of the week, things had escalated in ways I couldn't have imagined. A family 2 blocks over added their own mini shrine, a kneeling ceramic flamingo holding a candle. My neighbor Todd started selling bootleg Gregory stickers from his garage. Some teenager graffitied "Long Live the Gnome" on the HOA's clubhouse wall in neon pink. Karen was losing her grip. You could see it. Her HOA emails went from stiff and formal to full-on meltdown. Residents are reminded that unsanctioned decorative rebellions will not be tolerated. Anyone participating in the Gnome cult may be subject to HOA suspension and possible neighborhood exile. Yes, exile. Like we live in Sparta. So naturally, I hosted a vigil. That Saturday night, 30 people showed up. We had candles, lawn chairs, a boom box playing Gregorian chants remixed with lo-fi beats. One guy even wore a robe and gave a speech titled, "What Would Gregory Do?" It was magical. Karen called the cops. The officer who showed up took one look, then burst out laughing. He'd already seen Gregory on Facebook. Said his wife made him promise to bring home a selfie with the gnome. I happily obliged. Karen stood fuming on her porch, dialing numbers on her phone like she was reporting a murder. "You think this is funny?" she screamed at the sky. Honestly, it was hilarious, but it was also strategic, because while Karen flailed around in bureaucratic rage, I was building something bigger. Not just a shrine, a movement. HOAs think they can rule with beige fists and bogus bylaws. But sometimes all it takes to fight tyranny is one very rude lawn gnome. And Karen? She had no idea what I was planning next. So remember that peaceful vigil I hosted for Gregory? Yeah, well, Karen remembers it too, because it broke her. Like full-on HOA meltdown. Karen 2.0. Now with extra rage and a freshly laminated stack of bylaws that nobody voted on. The day after the vigil, I woke up to find my entire lawn staked with mini violation flags. Not one, not 5, 47. Little red triangles flapping in the wind like my yard was ground zero for some kind of bureaucratic airstrike. I stepped outside in my slippers, coffee in hand, staring at what looked like the world's pettiest crime scene. The flags had labels, each one more ridiculous than the last. Flag number 3, improper solar light arrangement. Flag number 14, disruptive lawn art, spiritual excessiveness.
Flag dièse 29, inautorisée quand de l'usage.
Flag number 35, unapproved assembly, aka the Gregory Vigil, and the Piece de Resistance. Flag number 47, displaying symbols of cult activity. I spat out my coffee. Cult? Really? Karen must have Googled how to suppress grassroots resistance and landed on some article from the 1600s. But the flags weren't even the worst part. No, the real kicker came in the form of an emergency HOA bulletin delivered to every mailbox in the neighborhood. It looked like a war declaration written by someone on Decoff and Delusion. Warning: urgent HOA notice. Effective immediately, all decorative lawn installations exceeding 24 inches in height must be removed pending review by the newly established Spiritual Content Oversight Committee. Residents are reminded that participation in unsanctioned lawn cults may be in violation of community harmony clauses. Gregory's removal is non-negotiable. Karen B., HOA president, defender of order, first of her name. Okay, that last part wasn't written, but it was there spiritually. The gloves were off. This was no longer about a gnome. This was lawn-based holy war. So I retaliated the only way I knew how. I called a local metal sculptor. Yes, I had contacts from my previous life. Long story. Let's just say I once commissioned a fire-breathing mailbox shaped like a dragon for a Renaissance fair, and I regret nothing. Fast forward 2 weeks, and Gregory the Divine got an upgrade. I present to you Gregory Ascended. Now 12 feet tall, forged in steel, with reflective eyes and a rotating LED halo that slowly turned while playing a 20-second loop of dramatic choral music every time someone walked by. He was glorious. He was majestic. He was also very, very HOA non-compliant. But here's the genius part. I put him on a motorized platform. Not permanent, technically movable, which made him a parade float. Karen stormed over the minute he was unveiled. She didn't even knock. She just stood on my lawn yelling like I just performed dark rituals with a leaf blower. This is a violation of the new statutes. she shrieked. Which ones? I asked sweetly. The Cult Regulation Act of 23? She shoved a stack of printed rules in my face. You cannot have a motorized religious display without applying for the parade permit subclause. I blinked. Karen, that's not a thing. She jabbed a page. It is now. Page 42. Section 9.2.1-3. Mobile iconography restrictions. Oh, she was spiraling. That's when my neighbor Todd walked over and said the most beautiful sentence I've ever heard. Gregory's got more followers than the HOA page now. See, while Karen was laminating rules like she was running a post-apocalyptic middle school, we had been organizing. The Gnome Nation Discord server had over 300 members. There were now Gregory fan shirts. Somebody even 3D printed a mini version for their Roomba. And Karen? She was cracking under the pressure. She tried to file a cease and desist. She filed a noise complaint about Gregory's music loop. She tried to get the county involved. Spoiler, the county sent a rep. He asked for a selfie with the gnome. Karen was foaming. That night, she held a community crisis meeting in her driveway. Folding chairs, a bullhorn, and about 12 people, all of whom looked like they regretted their life choices. She passed out flyers with a red stamp that read, Operation Gnome, Get Neighborhood Order, Maintain Enforcement. I watched from my porch, with popcorn, because of course I did. She shouted words like decorative insurgency, psychological manipulation via yard art, and anti-compliance symbolism. Someone in the crowd asked if she was okay. She threw a clipboard at him. It was beautiful. But then, Karen went too far. She hired a landscaper to come remove Gregory. Not HOA approved. Not a committee decision. Just a guy in a truck with a winch and a death wish. Except when he showed up, Gregory wasn't there. Why? Because I had him moved. Where, you ask? To the front lawn of the community clubhouse. Right next to the HOA sign. Facing it. Double birds raised high. Surrounded by solar-powered candles and a speaker playing the Halo theme song on loop. And taped to his chest? A single laminated note that read, Let my gnome go. So there we were. Gregory on the clubhouse lawn, backlit by solar candles, blasting the Halo theme song like it was suburban war drums. Me on my porch, sipping spiked lemonade from a mason jar. And Karen? Karen was losing her entire damn mind. Now I don't mean annoyed. I don't mean upset. I mean full-blown, clipboard-flinging, HOA memo spamming psychological collapse. The day after Gregory's miraculous relocation, she went DEFCON 1. 7:04 a.m., a blast email to all residents titled, Emergency HOA Security Update. Gnomes, Deception, and Domestic Subversion. I wish I was joking. I'm not. It had bullet points. Real ones. Unauthorized symbolic installations. Lawn-based psychological warfare. Suspected underground coordination of insurgent homeowners. You'd think she was dealing with sleeper cells, not garden statues. 9:32 a.m. Karen changes the HOA Wi-Fi name to Gnomes. Also not a joke. My friend Linda down the street sent me a screenshot. I almost crashed my car laughing. 11:58 a.m. She calls the local news. Yes, the actual news. A reporter shows up with a cameraman expecting a zoning scandal and ends up interviewing me in front of Gregory the Divine, who at that moment is spinning slowly on his motorized bass while playing a remixed version of Ave Maria. The interview was, well, let's just say it didn't go the way Karen planned. Reporter, so Mr. Collins, why did you build this? Me, because freedom matters. And also, he looks cool in the sunset. Reporter, is this a protest? Me, depends who's asking. If it's Karen, it's a cult. If it's the people, it's art. Reporter, do you plan to take it down? Me, only if Gregory tells me to. Back to Karen, who, during this interview, stood 20 feet away gripping a binder so hard I thought the plastic rings were going to shatter. She kept trying to interject with phrases like illegal installation, violation of visual cohesion, and my personal favorite, radical gnome extremism. They didn't air her interview. By 3 p.m., she was back at the clubhouse. Gregory now cordoned off with yellow tape that read evidence. And she was holding another emergency HOA meeting. But this time, things didn't go her way. Because the people, they were done. One by one, residents stood up and started saying things like, "Karen, you fined me for wind chimes. Karen, you told my wife her hydrangeas were too visually aggressive. Karen, you banned Halloween decorations last year because ghosts set a negative tone." Then Todd, hero, legend, certified mad lad, rolled up with a wheelbarrow full of mini gnomes. Mini gnomes, dozens of them, all dressed like tiny Gregorys, some flipping the bird, some holding signs, one wearing a Karen wig. Todd walked to the clubhouse steps, dumped the gnomes, and said, "We're done with your HOA bullshit, Karen. Gnome lives matter." It was glorious. Karen looked like she was about to rupture her pancreas from sheer fury. She screamed, literally screamed. Then she called the cops. Again. Except this time, the cops had been briefed. The same officer who took a selfie with Gregory earlier that week showed up. He took one look at the pile of gnomes, looked at Karen, and said, "Ma'am, is this another lawn statue emergency?" Karen turned purple. She pointed at me. "He started it." The cop turned to me. "Mr. Collins?" I shrugged. "I've said maybe 20 words today. One of them was grape popsicle." Karen tried to spin it. "They're coordinating. Underground resistance. Look at them. Organized, smug, wearing matching shirts. And yeah, okay, maybe we were wearing Gnome Nation t-shirts. And maybe one of them said, HOA equals hell on America. But still." Then the cop did something legendary. He picked up one of the mini gnomes, turned it over in his hand, and deadpan as hell said, "Well, he's not armed. Unless sarcasm counts." Karen stormed off. I wish I could say she was defeated. But oh no, that's not how clipboard tyrants go out. They escalate. The next morning, I received an envelope taped to my door. Black ink. No return address. The kind of thing you expect from a mafia movie or a passive-aggressive sorority. Inside was a summons. Karen was officially suing me. Grounds: disruption of community harmony. Unlawful establishment of a lawn cult. Defamation via lawn art. Gnome-led harassment. Not kidding. And at the bottom, the kicker. Plaintiff, Karen B., HOA President. Attorney of record, Brett B. Blecker Esq. Her husband. Oh, she brought in the family. But guess what? So did I. Because I have an uncle, a retired judge, who lives 2 streets over. And he had some things to say about HOA authority and First Amendment rights. Karen had no idea what was coming. Let's set the scene. It's a Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. A small county courthouse that usually sees traffic tickets and the occasional petty theft. Today, the standing room only. The bailiff has to tell 3 people to stop live streaming. Todd's wearing a homemade tie with Gregory's face on it. My neighbor Linda has a thermos labeled Gnome Justice Juice. Someone brought cookies shaped like tiny clipboards. Karen enters like she's marching into a Supreme Court hearing. Heels clicking, blazer crisp, husband/lawyer in tow. She's holding a manila folder thicker than her tolerance for wind chimes. She walks past me without a word, but her glare practically hisses. The judge walks in, bangs the gavel and says, "Let's get this circus rolling." And just like that, we're off. Opening statements. Karen's lawyer/husband Brett stands up, clears his throat like he's about to deliver the Gettysburg Address. "Your Honor, this case is about the decay of order. About a man who, through reckless ornamentation and radical lawn-based messaging, has upended the peaceful harmony of our community." He actually said reckless ornamentation. I nearly choked on my cough drop. He continues, "His gnome is not art. It's a weapon of insubordination, of division. It undermines our collective values and incites rebellion against a democratically elected HOA. I whisper to my attorney, my uncle, retired Judge Harold. Did he just call Gregory a weapon? Uncle Hal replies, I once ruled on a case where a guy assaulted someone with a duck. Anything's possible. My turn. Uncle Hal stands. Calm. Steady. wearing a BOLO tie with a gavel on it because that's just who he is. Your Honor, what we have here is not a crime. It's not a rebellion. It's one man putting a statue on his own lawn. That statue, rude as it may be, is an expression. Protected by state law, municipal code, and the very constitution Karen pretends doesn't apply to cul-de-sacs. He flips open the HOA handbook and slaps it on the table. None of the new rules were ever formally voted on. They were printed by Karen. On a printer we have proof she bought with HOA dues. Q gasps from the crowd. One old guy mutters, "I knew she was shady." Karen looks like she wants to throw a bench. The evidence. We present. Screenshots of Karen's mass HOA emails, where she refers to Gregory as a hostile idol and calls my neighbors passive cult sympathizers. Footage of the news interview, where Karen literally says, "We must eliminate lawn-based chaos at all costs." Her Amazon order history, which includes 47 mini red flags, 200 laminated signs, and a $79 megaphone labeled Leadership Level Loud. And the piece de resistance? The budget. Uncle Hal had subpoenaed HOA financial records. Turns out Karen spent $1,200 on compliance uniforms. Translation: matching polo shirts that say HOA Enforcement Squad. $300 on Gnome removal services, which, by the way, were never used because Gregory teleports through sheer righteousness. And $600 on what she labeled emergency morale supplies, which included wine, scented candles, and a set of Power President stationery. The judge rubs his temples like he regrets every life decision that led him to this moment. The climax. Karen takes the stand. And folks, it's a train wreck. She starts out composed, talking about community values, property standards, and the dangers of visual anarchy. But then she spirals. "He mocked me with a giant gnome. He turned the neighborhood against me. They were chanting in robes, Your Honor." Robes. The judge squints. "Do you have proof of robes?" Karen stammers. They weren't literal robes. But spiritually, yes. I'm biting my lip so hard I might need stitches. The judge finally sighs, looks around, and says, "This is the most ridiculous case I've heard in my 19 years on this bench. Mr. Collins, your gnome stays." "Karen, sorry, Ms. Blecker. You and your HOA are barred from creating or enforcing any new guidelines without a full community vote and documented approval from the county." He slams the gavel. Case dismissed. And for the love of all that is holy, someone please unplug that statue. Gregory, at that moment, rotates a final time and plays a tiny loop of applause. Epilogue. Gregory still stands tall in my yard. Karen? She resigned from the HOA a week later. Something about emotional trauma inflicted by ornamental terrorism. The community voted in Todd as the new HOA president. His first act? Approving lawn flamingos, disco lights, and any statue under 15 feet unless it spits fire. We threw a block party.
Gregory wurde a Party hat.
Someone made gnome-shaped cookies. The local paper ran a headline, "Lawn Order Restored." And me? I sipped my lemonade. I mow my yard. And I look out at Gregory the Divine, still glowing in the twilight, middle fingers raised to the heavens, as free as any man has ever been. If you enjoyed this wild little suburban saga, go ahead and give it a like. It helps more than you know. Drop a comment below and tell me, what would you have done in this situation? Or better yet, share your craziest HOA or neighbor story. I read every single one. And hey, if you want more stories like this, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Trust me, the next one is somehow even crazier. And yes, it does involve a homemade catapult.